Chapter 65. In addition to these two groups of people, there were also many High Heaven Pavilion disciples gathered to watch the show. There were quite a few of them, and they were all pointing at the field. With some doubts, Yang Kai squeezed into the crowd and slowly walked to where Li Yuntian and the others were. Inadvertently glancing at the field, he found that Sassafras's face was bruised and swollen. He was in a very sorry state as he fought with a young man who was not much older than him. The young man's face was calm and composed, and there was not the slightest injury on his body. He had a contemptuous smile on his face as he dealt with Sassafras' attacks while taunting him. Sassafras roared in a low voice and bravely rushed forward, but his attacks were easily dealt with by his opponent. After watching for a moment, Yang Kai's brows slightly wrinkled. He found that something was wrong. It was not that Sassafras' attacks did not hit the young man, but rather that his attacks had no effect on the young man. When his fists landed on the young man's body, the young man did not even frown. On the other hand, if Sassafras was hit, he would definitely suffer some small injuries. The yuan qi fluctuations that burst out from the two's moves were almost the same, which meant that their strength was not much different. How could there be such a difference when they fought? What's going on? Yang Kai patted Li Yuntian's shoulder and asked. Li Yuntian turned around, his expression overjoyed. "Brother Yang." With this shout, Zhao Hu and the others also noticed Yang Kai. They all greeted him and turned around to face the opposite group of people. Why is Sassafras not his opponent? Yang Kai asked his doubts. Their strength should be about the same, right? Li Yuntian quickly nodded, his expression resentful. Young Master Su is currently at the initial element second stage, while that person is at the initial element third stage. If it was a fair fight, even if young Master Su is not his opponent, he would not have it easy. But this person is really despicable and shameless. He is actually using a defensive artifact to challenge his fellow disciples. How could young Master Su use his skills? Yang Kai's expression sank. Defensive artifact? Li Yuntian clenched his teeth and said, "He is the Great Elder's grandson. His name is Wei Zhuan. His defensive artifact was bestowed upon him by the Great Elder." Another spoiled brat? Yang Kai faintly understood that there was an elder behind Sassafras, and this Wei Zhuan was the grandson of the Great Elder. Everyone had their own backing, and their status was about the same. Others did not dare to fight Sassafras, but that did not mean that he did not dare to. However, it was a bit too much for disciples of the same sect to wear defensive artifacts while exchanging pointers. First Elder and Second Elder have always been at odds. Even young Master Su and Wei Zhuan don't see eye to eye with each other. This time, he will definitely ruthlessly teach young Master Su a lesson. Li Yuntian was secretly anxious. Yang Kai said, "Oh, so it's just a boring infighting. Brother Yang, please think of a way to save young Master Su. You know his temper. If this continues, he will definitely be seriously injured." Li Yuntian pleaded. Yang Kai's expression was indifferent. When disciples of the same sect are exchanging pointers, the weaker will be beaten. Do you think High Heaven Pavilion disciples are afraid of this? But this battle was never fair. Wei Zhuan is relying on the power of his artifact. Yang Kai sneered, "This world is never fair. The weak are prey to the strong, and the strong are respected. You should already know this." Li Yuntian was stunned, and was also speechless. When disciples of the same sect were exchanging pointers, they really could not interfere. Although Yang Kai's performance in the past few days was fierce, the sect rules were still there. How could they expect him to save Sassafras like last time? In the arena, Sassafras was already on the verge of collapsing. He did not have much strength left in his moves. Wei Zhuan, on the other hand, laughed loudly and proudly. He patted his chest and said, "Sassafras, don't be polite. Come and hit me. This young master will not move today. If you can hit me until it hurts, then I will admit defeat." Sassafras's eyes were blurred. Both of his fists were stained with blood. Wei Zhuan's defensive artifact not only had the ability to protect him, it also had the ability to reflect yuan qi. Every time Sassafras punched, he would have to bear most of the force. This was why both of his fists were injured. Hearing Wei Zhuan's savage words, Sassafras spat out a mouthful of blood and said with disdain, "If you have the guts, then take off that turtle shell of yours. If this young master doesn't beat you until you crawl, then you are not my grandson." Wei Zhuan's expression turned cold. His face suddenly turned sinister and he laughed. "You have guts. You dare to take advantage of me. You will pay the price for your words." Wei Zhuan was clearly enraged. He rushed in front of Sassafras and threw a punch at Sassafras's face. In his weakened state, Sassafras tried to block, but his condition was not as good as his opponent's and he could not block the attack. His face was immediately hit by the fist and swelled up. His body was also turned around. Wei Zhuan's aura was like that of a tiger. He did not stop there. He directly kicked Sassafras to the ground and fiercely punched him with both of his fists. Sassafras tried to resist, but it was to no avail. The artifact that Wei Zhuan was wearing was not small. It was not something that Sassafras could break. "Call me Grandpa and this young master will let you go." Wei Zhuan stopped after hitting for a while and threatened. Sassafras looked at him coldly and laughed with disdain. Last time, Sassafras was almost hit in the head by Cheng Xiaofeng, but he did not yield. How could he compromise this time? "I'll let you laugh." Wei Zhuan did not show any mercy. After a few punches, Sassafras lost one of his teeth and blood flowed out of his nostrils. His appearance was too horrible to look at. This Wei Zhuan was even more ruthless than Cheng Xiaofeng. Young Master Su, Li Yuntian and the others could not watch any longer. They quickly stepped forward, but due to the rules of the sect, they could not go forward to rescue Sassafras. Wei Zhuan did not attack again. Instead, he looked at Li Yuntian and the others with a cold smile and said, "You want to save him?" Li Yuntian and the others did not answer. They took deep breaths and their expressions were filled with righteous indignation. "Let me ask you, do you want to save him?" Wei Zhuan slapped Sassafras's face and asked fiercely. Seeing that Sassafras was attacked again, Li Yuntian and the others quickly nodded, afraid that he would attack again. "If you want to, then kneel." Obediently kowtow a few times. "If this young master is in a good mood, then I'll let him go today." Wei Zhuan could not deal with Sassafras, so he set his sights on Li Yuntian and the others. After all, these people were Sassafras's subordinates. Humiliating them was the same as humiliating Sassafras. Hearing this, the surrounding people were in an uproar. Li Yuntian and the others' faces were ashen and extremely humiliated. Sassafras struggled to look at Li Yuntian and the others. His eyes were about to crack as he said one word at a time, "Don't listen to him." With a pa sound, Sassafras was slapped again. Li Yuntian and the others were shocked. They knew that if they continued to hesitate, Sassafras would be tortured again. They looked at Wei Zhuan hatefully. Their faces were filled with endless grief as they slowly knelt down. Yang Kai looked at them in astonishment. He did not expect that they would go to such an extent for Sassafras. A man's knees were gold. If they did not have deep feelings for each other, who would be willing to kneel for others? Yang Kai originally thought that Li Yuntian and the others were just following Sassafras around to eat and drink. Now it seems that this was not the case. Wei Zhuan narrowed his eyes and suddenly laughed. He looked down at Sassafras and said, "I didn't expect that the dogs you trained were so obedient." Sassafras's eyes were filled with tears of humiliation. Even when he was beaten into a pig's head by Wei Zhuan, he did not shed a single tear. But now, seeing Li Yuntian and the others kneeling on the ground, those 2 lines of tears could not help but flow. Chapter 66. Looking at Li Yuntian and the others kneeling on the ground, Wei Zhuan's face became even more smug as he laughed out loud. "Just kneeling doesn't show your sincerity." Li Yuntian and the others' faces were ashen as they clenched their teeth and prostrated themselves with their heads on the ground. Their voices carried boundless sorrow. "Brother Wei, please be merciful." Wei Zhuan's eyes narrowed as his smile gradually disappeared. Li Yuntian and the others' sense of righteousness caused him to be moved. "Wei Zhuan." Sassafras swallowed the mouthful of blood into his stomach. "You and I can't exist under the same sky." "That's exactly what I was thinking." Wei Zhuan clasped his hands together and fiercely smashed them towards Sassafras' chest. With a bang, Sassafras spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted from the pain. Young Master Su! Li Yuntian and the others roared. They never would have thought that Wei Zhuan would dare to break his promise in front of so many people. Don't let a single one go. Wei Zhuan fiercely ordered as he stood up from Sassafras' body and kicked him like a dead dog. The group of Sky Tower disciples who were previously confronting Li Yuntian and the others all sneered as they charged forward, blocking Li Yuntian and the others as they issued a challenge. Li Yuntian and the others were furious and didn't know how to vent their anger. Now that the other side had delivered themselves to their doorstep, how could they not accept? This was a brazen group fight, but each side had a fixed opponent. Wei Zhuan sneered as he looked at Li Yuntian and the others and ridiculed. Who dares to not accept, beat them to death. If they die, it'll be my fault. He clearly wanted to teach this group of people who followed Sassafras a lesson and let them know the consequences of following the wrong person. Because Yang Kai was close to Li Yuntian and the others, he was also targeted by one of Wei Zhuan's subordinates. This person rushed in front of Yang Kai and reported his name. He didn't even wait for Yang Kai to respond before directly attacking. Yang Kai kicked out with a thunderous force and landed on the person's stomach. The person immediately knelt down. His strength was probably only at the tempered body boundary, so according to the rules, he wasn't qualified to challenge Yang Kai, but since he had asked for it, he couldn't blame anyone else. Flashing through the chaotic battlefield, Yang Kai walked towards Sassafras step by step. Wei Zhuan narrowed his eyes as he sized up Yang Kai. A trace of doubt flashed through his eyes. Wei Zhuan naturally knew how many people Sassafras had and who they were. However, he had never seen Yang Kai before. For a moment, he couldn't figure out the identity of Yang Kai. Yang Kai remained silent. He walked up to Sassafras with a cold face and reached out to check his breathing. He was relieved to find that Sassafras had only fainted. Wei Zhuan was immediately unhappy. He had a grudge with Sassafras, and this person actually dared to check on Sassafras's injuries in front of him. He clearly didn't put him in his eyes. Yang Kai stood up and quietly looked at Wei Zhuan. This young master is asking who you are. Wei Zhuan raised his chin and asked in a stern voice. Trial disciple Yang Kai, please enlighten me. Yang Kai cupped his hands towards Wei Zhuan. This was the etiquette of Sky Tower disciples when they challenged each other. Yang Kai. Wei Zhuan was stunned for a moment, then immediately realized, you are the Yang Kai who has been in the limelight recently? You flatter me, but if there is no one else in the sect called Yang Kai, then I am. What a joke! A trifling trial disciple dares to challenge this young master. Do you have the qualifications? Wei Zhuan sneered. According to the sect's rules, as long as the difference in strength between disciples is less than 3 levels, they can challenge each other. This young master is at the initial element boundary 3rd level. Who do you think you are? Wei Zhuan said disdainfully. Trial disciples were disciples who had not broken through to the initial element boundary. Since they had not broken through, then they must be more than 3 levels away from him. I am also at the initial element boundary 3rd level. Yang Kai replied indifferently. A series of bewildered voices rang out. Impossible, Yang Kai is already at the initial element boundary 3rd level? Didn't they say that it took him 3 years to reach the tempered body 3rd level? Did I say it wrong? Or did I remember it wrong? That's strange. When Yang Kai challenged me, he was only at the tempered body 8th level. How did he reach this level in less than a month? All kinds of doubts were raised. Wei Zhuan also looked at Yang Kai suspiciously, as if he was wondering if he was telling the truth. Since he had already reached the initial element boundary, why was he still a trial disciple? How could he know that Yang Kai had only broken through last night, and he had directly broken through from the tempered body 9th level to this level? Now I have the qualifications to challenge you, right? Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and asked, a fierce light flashing in his eyes. If you really have the strength, then you do have the qualifications. Wei Zhuan nodded and laughed sinisterly. If you are not afraid of death. Yang Kai said indifferently, I hope you are not afraid of death. Shameless boasting. Wei Zhuan was furious. He thought to himself, I am wearing a defensive artifact. Even a cultivator at the peak of the initial element boundary would not be able to break through my defense. I am in an invincible position. How can you, an initial element boundary 3rd level, win against me? Come, I will let you try punching me. Wei Zhuan waved at Yang Kai arrogantly. How could Yang Kai be polite? He rushed up and directly punched Wei Zhuan in the chest. The burning hot true Yang Yuan Qi poured in. Not only did it not hurt Wei Zhuan, but Yang Kai's body shook and he staggered back a few steps. He looked down and saw that his fist was completely red. It was obvious that he had been injured by his own Yuan Qi. Ah, you overestimate yourself. Wei Zhuan became more and more proud of himself. Before he finished speaking, he was startled again. This was because he discovered that Yang Kai's eyes had suddenly turned red. A fierce wave of Yuan Qi came from his body, bringing with it a boiling heat. His eyes did not have the slightest trace of fear, only excitement. These eyes were like the eyes of a fierce beast. When it saw a prey it was interested in, it was the precursor to a violent attack. For no reason, Wei Zhuan's heart skipped a beat. Yang Kai had already pounced forward with a grin. A drop of yang liquid quietly appeared on his fingertips. With a thought, it transformed into a blood-red blade as thin as a cicada's wing. The blood-red light flashed, followed by a light-piercing sound. Yang Kai and Wei Zhuan's bodies crossed each other. Wei Zhuan only felt a chill in his abdomen. He looked down and his heart sank to the bottom. He screamed, "My embroidered cloud chainmail." This embroidered cloud chainmail was a common middle-level defensive artifact. Although its grade was not high, it was very suitable for a cultivator of his level. The Great Elder had obtained it from somewhere and gave it to him. At that time, the Great Elder had clearly said that an initial element cultivator would not be able to break through the defense of this artifact unless they used a powerful martial skill. But now, the artifact that he had placed such high hopes on had actually been cut open by a mere initial element stage 3rd stage trial disciple in a single round. What kind of weapon did he just use? Could it be that the blood-red weapon was also an artifact? And its grade was even higher than the embroidered cloud chainmail? If it was not, how could it have such an amazing effect? Chapter 67. At this moment, Wei Zhuan was both shocked and distressed. He was shocked that his embroidered cloud chainmail couldn't defend against the opponent's attack. He was distressed that this defensive artifact had been cut open and had completely lost its ability to defend. In his extreme anger, Wei Zhuan turned around and threw himself at Yang Kai, shouting, "You dare break my artifact, I'll kill you." Wei Zhuan was also at the initial element boundary 3rd stage, so when he used his full strength, his strength wouldn't be too bad. But Yang Kai had already killed an initial element boundary 5th stage cultivator when he was in the tempered body stage, so what could a trifling 3rd stage cultivator do? When Wei Zhuan arrived in front of him, the blood-red blade in his hand crisscrossed and slashed a few times. Wei Zhuan's body suddenly froze. His fist was only 3 inches away from Yang Kai, but he couldn't hit him. This was because he could feel a burning sensation in his chest. His eyes trembled as he looked down and saw the blood-red blade in Yang Kai's hand. It was like a snake spitting out its tongue, swallowing and spitting as it pressed against his chest. A defensive artifact, it's not that great. Kai Yang sneered. His eyes swept over Wei Zhuan's close-fitting embroidered cloud chainmail, which had several large cracks. Yang Kai was also surprised. He didn't think that the blade formed from his yang liquid would be this sharp. If he really fought with Wei Zhuan, although he could win, it definitely wouldn't be this easy. He was only relying on the power of the yang liquid. But since the opponent was relying on the embroidered cloud chainmail, why couldn't he use the yang liquid? "You dare to hurt me!" Wei Zhuan's face trembled as he looked at Yang Kai with a ferocious expression. Even if his life was in Yang Kai's hands, he didn't have the slightest fear. He was the grandson of the first elder. With such a revered status, no one in Sky Tower had the guts to hurt him. "Little brat, you don't know my grandfather is the first elder. If you dare to hurt me, you're dead. Wei Zhuan threatened. Yang Kai remained unmoved. The blood-red blade on his finger became more and more dangerous, and the red light in his eyes became brighter. I wonder if you'll die first or me? Yang Kai looked at Wei Zhuan with interest. A strange smile appeared on his face as he slowly exerted more force on his fingers. A trace of dark red blood seeped out from Wei Zhuan's chest. Wei Zhuan's face paled and he couldn't help but groan. The moment his body was injured, he felt a hot yuan qi enter his body, burning his flesh painfully. You dare! Wei Zhuan looked at Yang Kai in disbelief. He had never thought that there would actually be someone in High Heaven Pavilion who dared to hurt him. Whether I dare or not, I've already done it. Do you think I dare or not? Yang Kai continued to exert more force. The blade penetrated half an inch, causing blood to flow out. Wei Zhuan's body suddenly trembled. He put on a strong front and said, "You're not afraid my grandfather will kill you." Disciples of the sect are only comparing notes. Life and death is their own responsibility. Yang Kai coldly snorted, "You're not as good as others. If you die, you can't blame anyone. So what if he's the first elder? Sky Tower doesn't belong to him." Wei Zhuan was frightened. He looked at the crazy fellow disciple in front of him. A chill rose from the bottom of his heart and his whole body turned cold. Just as he was about to open his mouth, Yang Kai suddenly interrupted him. "Before you can say the two words admit defeat, I will kill you. You better not think about it." Wei Zhuan's face turned pale. He really did want to admit defeat. When disciples of the same sect were comparing notes, once one side felt that their strength was not enough, they could admit defeat. The other side could not continue to attack. But now, he didn't dare to say those two words. He didn't see any trace of a joking expression in his opponent's eyes. They were extremely serious. "What do you want?" Wei Zhuan clenched his teeth and asked. "Nothing. I just feel that you're not as good as Sassafras. The only reason you could win against him was because of your secret artifact." Yang Kai slowly shook his head. "I'm not as good as him?" Wei Zhuan was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He roared in a low voice, "How am I not as good as him? My strength is higher than his and my background is better than his. How am I not as good as him?" Yang Kai tilted his head and sized him up. "You don't believe me? Let me show you." After he finished speaking, his fingers suddenly exerted more force. Wei Zhuan couldn't help but let out a low roar. His face turned as white as gold and his body staggered. Yang Kai slowly turned his head and sized up the group of Wei Zhuan's subordinates. Just now, they were fighting to the death with Li Yuntian and the others. But after Wei Zhuan was suppressed, they didn't dare to make any moves. At this moment, they were all staring blankly at Wei Zhuan. "You want to save your young master Wei Zhuan?" Yang Kai raised his voice and asked. No one dared to answer. Everyone was shocked by Yang Kai's craziness. The people present were all teenagers. When had they ever seen such a cruel scene? "If you want to save him, then obediently kneel down and kowtow to me. If I'm in a good mood, I'll spare his life," Yang Kai said coldly. The group of people's faces turned white. These words, weren't these the words that Wei Zhuan had said to Sassafras's subordinates? When Sassafras's subordinates heard these words, they didn't hesitate to kneel on the ground and kowtow to Wei Zhuan. Were they going to follow in their footsteps? There were so many people watching. If they really kneeled down, they would lose all face. How would they have the face to stay in Sky Tower Pavilion in the future? But if they didn't kneel, what would they do if Wei Zhuan blamed them? The group of people had different expressions. Hundreds of thoughts ran through their minds. Some of them couldn't make up their minds. "You all want him to die." Yang Kai lightly sighed. The blade on his fingertips moved a bit deeper into Wei Zhuan's body. Wei Zhuan was scared out of his wits. He could clearly feel that if the blade in Yang Kai's hand moved a bit deeper, it would directly pierce his heart. That was a fatal attack. Wei Zhuan didn't want to die. His whole body was drenched in sweat. He shouted at his subordinates, "What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and kneel down. If I die, none of you will live." His subordinates trembled and hurriedly kneeled on the ground. Li Yuntian and the others were overwhelmed with emotions. The anger they had just suffered seemed to have disappeared with this kneel. It was indescribable how carefree they were. Yang Kai turned his head to look at Wei Zhuan and lightly said, "Now do you know the difference between you and sassafras?" When Wei Zhuan heard this, his face froze. Soon after, his expression changed and he resentfully swept his gaze over his subordinates. In order to save Sassafras's life, Li Yuntian and the others were willing to be humiliated. But what about his subordinates? They had no choice but to shout out and threaten them with their lives. Only then did they reluctantly agree to Yang Kai's request. Comparing the two, the difference between Wei Zhuan and Sassafras was obvious. In terms of charisma, Wei Zhuan was indeed not as good as Sassafras. "Are you satisfied now?" Wei Zhuan forcefully raised his spirits and coldly looked at Yang Kai. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. His expression was uncertain. Wei Zhuan was shocked and said in a trembling voice, "You can't be." But before Yang Kai could answer, a roar came from afar, "Everyone stop." Chapter 68. Just as the voice rang out, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Yang Kai. Without any explanation, this person's palm landed on Yang Kai's shoulder. With an unparalleled strength, Yang Kai let out a groan and was sent flying. "Brother Yang!" Li Yuntian and the others turned pale with fright. They hurried forward to support Yang Kai. Yang Kai struggled to get up. He lightly coughed while sizing up the newcomer. He saw a youth standing next to Wei Zhuan. His expression was dark as he stared at him. With one hand supporting the staggering Wei Zhuan, he asked, "Young Master Zhuan, are you all right?" Wei Zhuan resentfully glared at Yang Kai. His body staggered as he shook his head. "I'm fine." "It's good that you're fine. I came late." The youth couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Although his strength was higher than Wei Zhuan's, he was still a subordinate of the first elder. In terms of status, he couldn't compare to Wei Zhuan. "You're not too late." Wei Zhuan sneered and asked in a strange voice, "Brother Chao, as a disciple of the disciplinary hall, you should know the rules of the sect like the back of your hand. Let me ask you, if someone dares to commit murder within the sect, what is the punishment?" Chao Zhengwen's expression turned cold as he firmly said, "Depending on the severity of the case, the light punishment is breaking the hands and feet and expelling the offender from the Sky Tower Pavilion. The heavy punishment is killing the offender on the spot as a warning to others." Wei Zhuan laughed and pointed at Yang Kai. "Just now, this person tried to kill me. Brother Chao, you decide what to do." With someone backing him up, how could Wei Zhuan compromise like before? Chao Zhengwen sternly shouted, "Is this true?" Wei Zhuan sneered, "When Brother Chao came, didn't you see everything?" Chao Zhengwen nodded, "That's right. Just now, this disciple really did hold a weapon against young Master Zhuan's chest. If I didn't stop him in time, young Master Zhuan would have been killed. This person is really daring. He dares to commit such a crime in broad daylight." The two of them sang the same tune and cooperated seamlessly. In a flash, they pinned the crime of murder on Yang Kai. "Bullshit!" Li Yuntian roared. "Just now, Brother Yang and Wei Zhuan were only sparring. How could it be as serious as you say? What are you trying to do by distorting the truth?" Chao Jingwen snorted. "Is it really that simple?" Zhao Hu said, "If you don't believe me, you can ask the brothers who are here to watch the show. We can all testify." Moreover, this matter was started by Wei Zhuang. Brother Yang was only dragged into it. "Someone will testify? Who will testify?" Wei Zhuan tilted his head and sneered as he looked around. Many of the High Heaven Pavilion disciples who had gathered to watch the fun suddenly scattered like birds and beasts, quickly fleeing the scene. They had all heard of the pavilion's elder struggle, so they naturally didn't have the courage to intervene. No matter which side they offended, their future days in High Heaven Pavilion wouldn't be good. When Li Yuntian saw this scene, he couldn't help but grit his teeth in anger, but he still straightened his neck and said, "We participated in the entire process. We know every detail clearly. We are the witnesses." Chao Jingwen shook his head. "You gathered a crowd to fight, so you are guilty. How can you testify?" "Gathered a crowd to fight?" Zhao Hu jumped up and roared, It was clearly Wei Zhuang who asked his subordinates to challenge us. Where did this come from? Chao Jingwen, don't think that just because you are a disciplinary disciple you can do whatever you want. High Heaven Pavilion is not for you to decide. How dare you? Chao Jingwen rebuked. The disciplinary hall represents High Heaven Pavilion's rules. It has always been fair and just. You dare to question the disciplinary hall's authority, your crime is even worse. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Yang Kai waved his hand to stop Li Yuntian and the others from arguing. Looking at Chao Jingwen, he sneered, fair and just? Today I have seen what is called fair and just. Chao Jingwen sneered and shouted, arrest all of them. After the Elder Council's discussion, they will be dealt with. So. A series of clothes flapping sounds came from all directions. More than 10 disciplinary hall disciples rushed out from all directions. Even the weakest among them was at the initial element boundary 5th stage. How could Li Yuntian and the others be a match for them? In just a few moments, they were all pinned to the ground and restrained. Yang Kai didn't resist because he knew that it would be useless even if he did. Let's wait and see. Wei Zhuang was a petty person who got what he wanted. He walked in front of Yang Kai and sneered at him. Take them away. Chao Jingwen ordered. The disciplinary hall disciples took Li Yuntian and the others away. Looking at the unconscious sassafras on the ground, Chao Jingwen frowned. He didn't care about Yang Kai and Li Yuntian, but Sassafras's identity was special. He didn't have the guts to touch him. After thinking for a moment, he said, send junior brother to the second elder. Yes. Someone answered and picked up sassafras from the ground and hurriedly left. Young Master Zhuang, you've suffered. Chao Jingwen said softly. Wei Zhuang narrowed his eyes and gritted his teeth. That Yang Kai, I definitely can't let him go. He humiliated me today. If I don't take revenge, I won't be a man. You should know what to do. Chao Jingwen hesitated. Young Master Zhuang, today's matter is a bit big. It will definitely alarm the elders. If we make a move now, I'm afraid it won't be good. Why don't we wait for the elders to make a decision before making a move? But I can't take this lying down. Wei Zhuang said with a ferocious expression. Don't worry, I'll help you teach him a lesson. I'll let him know the consequences of offending you. Don't beat him to death. I want to end him with my own hands. As you wish. In High Heaven Pavilion's forest prison, Yang Kai and his group were all imprisoned here. The forest prison was dark and damp, the temperature was very cold, and there were rats and mosquitoes everywhere. Waves of nauseating stench rushed in from all directions. The environment was extremely bad. The forest prison was the place where Sky Tower imprisoned disciples who made mistakes. Li Yuntian and the others never thought that they would one day be imprisoned here. Each and every one of them had a bad taste in their mouths. Brother Yang, this time we've implicated you. Li Yuntian sat next to Yang Kai and softly apologized. Yang Kai smiled. This isn't your fault. I couldn't help but jump out. I can't bear to see my own family fighting each other. Fighting each other? Li Yuntian almost choked. Didn't these words also include us? To put it nicely, it's called fighting each other. To put it bluntly, isn't it fighting each other? Yang Kai chuckled. That's true. But Brother Yang, don't worry. Young Master Su won't ignore us. We only need to wait here for a few hours and young Master Su will be able to rescue us. Li Yuntian's thoughts were relatively simple. Yang Kai turned his body and assumed a more comfortable position. Tell me, why is there a rift between the Great Elder and the Second Elder? Li Yuntian heard this and sighed. This is related to our sect leader. I'd like to hear the details. Li Yuntian said, last time, young Master Su also told you about the sect leader's 2 disciples. Ever since the sect leader left the mountain to capture the second disciple and banish him to the coiling dragon stream, our sect leader rarely appears in front of others. He doesn't even pay attention to the matters of the Sky Tower. These past few years, the Great Elder has been acting as the sect leader. Maybe it's because he's been here for a long time that he's become more ambitious. The Great Elder now truly considers himself the sect leader. The second elder doesn't like this and thinks that the great elder often oversteps his boundaries. Over time, there will naturally be friction. Meng Wuya immediately became vigilant. No, but I've been observing him for 2 years. Master, you also know that I'm on duty in the Dark Hall. I'm responsible for the territory where he lives. Xianxia told the truth, then begged again, Master, please think of a way to save him. This time, he has offended the great elder. Without the help of an expert, I'm afraid he won't be able to escape this calamity. The second elder may not necessarily care about his life or death. Master, you are that expert. Meng Wuya's face was full of enjoyment. Flattery always worked, not to mention it was his own precious disciple who was flattering him. After feeling proud for a while, Meng Wuya frowned. Disciple, this matter is not something Master can intervene in. You see, this is after all High Heaven Pavilion's internal affairs. This old master is just a caretaker. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to intervene. This was the truth. Although he had a good impression of Yang Kai, as an outsider, how could he have the nerve to intervene in High Heaven Pavilion's affairs? Xianxia didn't answer. She just stared at Meng Wuya with a pair of watery eyes. Although there was a veil covering her face, Meng Wuya could still see her angry little face. Meng Wuya couldn't stand this kind of look, so he immediately put on a bitter face. Hey, my little grand, don't be so stubborn. Even if this old master doesn't intervene, the second elder will definitely make arrangements. This time, Yang Kai was involved because of sassafras. If the second elder doesn't intervene, how will he win over people's hearts in the future? Xianxia asked angrily. There shouldn't be any what if. Meng Wuya was also a bit uncertain. After all, when the upper echelons fought, sacrificing 1 or 2 disciples was a very common thing. Xianxia turned around and sat down on a chair next to him. She said sullenly, Master, if you don't help him, then I won't be able to go to the 9th In congregation ground. I'm afraid your disciple's strength will stop there for the rest of his life. Hearing this, Meng Wuya turned pale with fright. He ran out from behind the counter and stood in front of Xianxia. He lowered his posture like he was serving a grand aunt. Where did this come from? Xianxia turned her head and didn't say anything. Meng Wuya quickly turned around and walked in front of Xianxia again. Tell me, why can't you go there if you don't help him? In any case, if you don't care about his life or death, then you don't need to care about my life or death either. Master, you are such a heartless person. These words were like a sharp arrow that shot straight at Meng Wuya's heart. It was like he was struck by lightning. His whole body trembled, and his little heart broke into countless pieces. Grandit, my grandit, can't we talk nicely? These old bones of mine can't stand you tormenting me like this. Meng Wuya bowed again and again. He was extremely humble. How was this the attitude toward a disciple? This was clearly the attitude toward an ancestor. Xianxia turned her head and stared at Meng Wuya. She said softly, he cultivates a yang attribute martial skill, and the yang qi in his body is incomparably pure. Yang attribute yuan qi? Meng Wuya's expression was dignified. To what extent is it pure? It's 5 times purer than the person you found last time. Xianxia replied. You tested it? Meng Wuya couldn't wait to confirm. If that's the case, then nothing can happen to him. Meng Wuya suddenly straightened his back. After thinking for a moment, he walked out. When he reached the door, he paused and looked back at Xianxia. He asked, Disciple, do you dislike him? Xianxia slowly shook her head. Then you like him? It's not that I like him, I just don't dislike him. Xianxia's face turned red. Good. You know what you have to do if you want to go there, but you have to promise me that you won't be tempted by him. Only then will I go save him. Master, what are you saying? Xianxia was very embarrassed. I haven't even spoken to him. These words made Xianxia feel very guilty. She couldn't help but recall the awkwardness of last night. It's not that I want to cut off your love, but this kind of small place is not a place for you. There's no one here that you can fall in love with. Sooner or later, you'll reach a height that no one can reach. At that time, you will live for hundreds of years, or even thousands of years, while the person you love will slowly die of old age in front of you. I don't want you to suffer that kind of pain. Disciple, you have to remember, the peak of martial arts is loneliness, loneliness, and loneliness. Chapter 70. Meng Wuya's words were said with a sigh, as if he was speaking from his heart. Xia Ningchang could naturally hear the grief in his words. Could it be that Master had experienced this kind of thing? Just as he was about to ask, Meng Wuya had already disappeared. At the same time, in Black Wind Trade, in front of the High Heaven Pavilion disciples' wooden house, a sweaty young man hurriedly ran over. Standing in front of the door, he gently knocked and calmed his breathing before softly calling out, "Senior Sister Su." "What's the matter?" A cold voice came from inside. The voice was very pleasant to hear, but it carried a kind of coldness that repelled people thousands of miles away. The sweat on the young man's body almost condensed into ice. Shivering, he said, "Young Master Sassafras has been knocked unconscious. His subordinates have also been arrested by the law enforcement hall and locked up in the forest prison." As soon as his voice fell, the door of the wooden house suddenly opened and a white-clothed Su Yan appeared in front of him. The man quickly retreated 2 steps and lowered his head, not daring to look directly at Su Yan's flawless face. "Speak clearly, what happened?" Su Yan lightly asked, but the whole wooden house was emitting a burst of cold air visible to the naked eye. Cracking sounds could be heard from the ground, the sound of ice forming. The young man quickly made a long story short and told the whole story. After he finished, he waited for a long time, but there was no movement from the other side. He couldn't help but whisper, "Senior Sister Su?" After calling out, there was still no response. The man gathered his courage and quietly looked up, but there was no trace of Su Yan. She had already left at some point. "Oh my God!" The High Heaven Pavilion disciple almost collapsed and fell to the ground. This Senior Sister Su was too cold. In the future, whoever married her would have to sleep under a quilt on a hot day. However, for such a cold and noble person like Senior Sister Su, there was no man in the world who could match up to her, right? No one would have thought that just a small conflict between High Heaven Pavilion's younger generation disciples would cause such a stir and stir up so many heroes. In the High Heaven Pavilion's forest prison, Yang Kai, Li Yuntian, and the others were still imprisoned. It had already been more than an hour since they were captured, but there was still no movement outside. Li Yuntian and the rest were anxious. They didn't know why Sassafras hadn't made a move yet. But on second thought, Sassafras had been knocked unconscious at that time, and he didn't know if he had woken up yet. If he hadn't woken up, there was no way to rescue him. Just as he was worrying, the gate of the forest prison was suddenly opened. Along with the sound of footsteps, a disciple of the law enforcement hall came to the cell where Yang Kai and the others were imprisoned. After opening the door, he shouted, "Who is Yang Kai?" Yang Kai answered in a deep voice, "I am." "Come with me." The disciple of the law enforcement hall impolitely ordered, "Someone wants to see you." Yang Kai's face darkened. He sneered, but he wasn't afraid. He walked out. "Brother Yang, don't go out. Wait for young Master Su to come and save us." Li Yuntian was alarmed and pulled on Yang Kai. "Let go." The disciple of the law enforcement hall angrily shouted, "Whoever dares to stop him is an enemy of the law enforcement hall. You know the consequences." Yang Kai said to Li Yuntian, "I'll go take a look. Don't worry." Li Yuntian helplessly let go and said in a deep voice, "Brother Yang, be careful." The disciple of the law enforcement hall sneered, "You overestimate yourself." Walking out of the cell, the disciple locked the gate and then led Yang Kai outside. Not long after, they arrived in front of a room. The disciple opened the door and said with a strange smile, "Please come in." Yang Kai turned his head and looked at him. He also sneered and stepped in. The disciple of the law enforcement hall followed closely behind and closed the door with a bang. Almost as soon as the door was closed, Yang Kai suddenly turned around and slammed his palm on the chest of the disciple who led him in. Burning hot true Yang Yuan Qi poured into the disciple's body. The disciple immediately screamed and was pushed into the wall. He never thought that Yang Kai would dare to attack him. This time, he took the full brunt of Yang Kai's attack and almost couldn't catch his breath. "You have big dog guts." An angry shout came from inside the room. Immediately, 3 or 4 figures danced and pounced on Yang Kai. Yang Kai only had time to block one of the attacks. In the next moment, he was knocked to the ground, followed by a series of punches and kicks. In the chaos, Yang Kai roared. Blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. The sweet taste of blood made Yang Kai excited. His blood boiled. At this moment, true Yang Yuan Qi was flowing in his meridians at an incredible speed. The burning heat seeped out of his bones and spread throughout his body. Yang Kai's skin became fiery red. This time, the energy coming from his bones seemed to be much stronger than before. Yang Kai, who was being besieged, suddenly leapt up into the air. While in mid-air, he kicked out with his legs, hitting the heads of 2 law enforcement hall disciples. Accompanied by 2 screams, the 2 stumbled backwards. But before Kai Yang could land on the ground, a person appeared from the side and accurately grabbed his ankle. With a fierce fling, Kai Yang was flung into the wall like a ragged sack. Groaning, his internal organs were all turned upside down. Struggling to get up, Yang Kai wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Under the dim light of the room, he was able to clearly see the situation in the room. This was a sealed secret room. There were 5 disciples of the law enforcement hall. According to the Yuan Qi fluctuations from the fight just now, Yang Kai estimated that their strength was around the initial element boundary. The one who threw him out had a violent Yuan Qi, which was the sign that he had already entered the Qi transformation stage. 1 against 5. Moreover, the gap between their realms was quite large. This battle was destined to be a one-sided battle. But Yang Kai was smiling. In this adversity, Yang Kai's fighting spirit was surging fiercely. "You dare to take the initiative to injure others." The Qi transformation stage disciple shouted coldly. "Your courage is not small." The other 4 stood behind him, staring coldly at Yang Kai. They had received orders from Chao Zhengwen to teach Yang Kai a good lesson, as long as they did not kill him. They did not expect that just as they entered the room, Yang Kai would actually take the initiative to attack, catching them off guard and causing them to lose face. Heh. Yang Kai leaned against the wall with his head slightly lowered. His scarlet eyes looked at the 5 people and said coldly, "You want to hit me? Do you think I can't retaliate?" The Qi transformation stage disciple's face darkened. He laughed sinisterly. "You are quite smart. Since you know what we are thinking, then don't retaliate. Obediently let us beat you up so that young Master Wei Zhuan can vent his anger. If you dare to retaliate, you may lose an arm or a leg. You can try." Yang Kai looked at him coldly. "Stubborn fool. Beat him up." Under the order, the 5 people moved out again. Their moves were ruthless, not showing the slightest mercy. With their strength, it was more than enough to deal with Yang Kai one-on-one. Now that the 5 of them were attacking together, it was naturally easy to teach Yang Kai a lesson. To be continued. Chapter 71. The secret room was suddenly thrown into chaos. Angry roars and the sound of punches and kicks were incessant. Occasionally, 1 or 2 groans could be heard, and blood splattered everywhere. As the saying goes, it is difficult for 2 fists to fight 4 hands. Yang Kai's strength was already lacking compared to these people. Now that he was fighting 1 against 5, how could he protect himself? Often, when he fought with others, he would have to endure 4 or 5 attacks. These disciplinary disciples were even more ruthless. Although they wouldn't take Yang Kai's life, after suffering such a beating, anyone would have to lie in bed for at least 1 to 2 months. Stop! After a long while, the Qi transforming stage disciplinary disciples suddenly shouted and quickly jumped out of the ring. "Stop fighting! If you continue, you will kill him." The other 4 people also hurriedly retreated. They stared at Yang Kai, who was lying on the ground, with some fear in their eyes. "Fuck." One of them covered his cheek. I was slapped by him. My teeth almost fell out. The other man covered his crotch with a look of lingering fear. I almost lost my bloodline. If I didn't dodge fast enough, the first one to lie down would have been me. Even if he avoided his vital parts, he still felt a burning pain in his thigh. Yang Kai struggled to resist the powerful kick. Even now, when he thought about it, he still felt a chill in his heart. The five of them looked at each other, all of them stunned, because although they had managed to defeat Kai Yang in this battle, each of them had more or less been left with some scars on their bodies. This discovery shocked the five people. The five people's faces suddenly became embarrassed. Wasn't this too embarrassing? How could a trial disciple, who was only at the third level of the initial element realm, be so cruel? When they were ganging up on him, they didn't care much about it. Now that they thought about it, they found it inconceivable. Pooh! A sound came. The five people followed the sound and saw that Yang Kai, who should have been paralyzed on the ground, actually stood up shakily and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flickered between light and darkness, constantly changing. There was a faint red light shining, and a scorching hot feeling rushed toward him, as if a volcano that had been dormant for thousands of years had finally erupted. This Yuan Qi fluctuation. The Qi transformation stage disciple was shocked. Something is wrong. How could this be the Yuan Qi fluctuation of a third-stage initial element realm disciple? It was obvious that he had already reached the peak of the initial element stage. If he took another step forward, he would most likely reach the Qi transformation stage. He can still stand up? The person next to him opened his eyes wide and almost bit his own tongue. Even if it was him, if he was beaten up like this, he was afraid that he wouldn't even have the strength to move a finger. How could he stand up? "He's here!" Another person suddenly screamed. Before he could finish his words, the originally trembling Yang Kai suddenly rushed towards the five people like a gust of wind. Halfway through, Yang Kai's fist became fiery red, like a soldering iron that had been fished out from a charcoal fire. The person who shouted used all the Yuan Qi in his body and fiercely exchanged a punch with Yang Kai. Boom! The person flew backwards and hit the wall before falling to the ground. He felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Yang Kai's body slightly paused, but he had already found his second target. Presumptuous! The Qi transformation stage disciple leader was furious. His five brothers were fighting against a junior brother. Not only were they unable to defeat him, but they were also counterattacked. If this spread out, what kind of scandal would this be? Where were they supposed to put their faces? In his anger, the Qi transformation stage disciple pushed out his palm and shouted in a deep voice, "Whirling wind force." The room was suddenly filled with a whistling sound. From the palm of this person, a small tornado visible to the naked eye burst out, directly meeting Yang Kai's fist. Kacha, kacha. A series of cracking sounds were heard. The clothes on Yang Kai's arms seemed to have been cut by countless blades, instantly becoming tattered. His entire arm was also covered with bloodstains. Yang Kai's crimson eyes revealed a shocked expression. His true Yang Yuan Qi moved, fiercely gushing out from his arm, blocking the opponent's martial skill. With a whoosh, a ball of fire exploded in the secret chamber. Yang Kai's true Yang Yuan Qi merged with the Qi transforming stage disciple's whirlwind energy and ignited it. Amidst the flames, Yang Kai's fist flew out and collided with the palm of the Qi transforming stage disciple. Both sides were forced to retreat. What are you waiting for? Beat him up. The Qi transforming stage disciple's palm turned red. He had never thought that the opponent's Yuan Qi would be so strange. Although it did not injure him, he had still suffered some losses. Enraged, he immediately roared. The other three disciplinary hall disciples recovered from their shock. They rushed forward and surrounded Yang Kai. Using all of their skills, they began to beat up Yang Kai. The other man, who was the first to be sent flying by Yang Kai, also joined in angrily. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the four people gradually stopped. While gasping for breath, they retreated a few feet away from Yang Kai. They were almost an entire room away from him as they vigilantly sized him up. They were really shocked by this junior brother's craziness. The second time they ganged up on him, the results were obvious. Yang Kai's injuries were several times more serious than the previous ones, but the 4 people also paid a different price. He won't get up again, right? One of them covered his mouth and coughed as he softly asked. After coughing, there was a pool of blood in his hand. He shouldn't, he was already beaten to this extent. Another person rubbed his eyes. There was a bruise there and even a big blister, as if he had been scalded by boiling water. The 5 people felt bitter in their hearts. They felt that they had suffered such a big loss because of the terrain. In this small secret room, 5 people against 1 person seemed to have the advantage, but in reality, it was very difficult for them to attack at the same time. But the opponent didn't have so many scruples. There were enemies everywhere, so he could fight as he pleased. If they were in the wilderness and could use all of their strength, why would they be in such an awkward situation? But this junior brother called Yang Kai's strength was really amazing. A normal initial element boundary 3rd level was simply not his opponent. No wonder Wei Zhuan was defeated by him. Just when the 5 people thought that Yang Kai had been beaten to the ground, he unexpectedly moved again. He was extremely weak and battered, but little by little he straightened his body. The yuan qi fluctuations emitted from his body not only did not weaken, but also surged. Damn it! The qi transformation stage disciple cursed. What kind of freak was this junior brother? Why didn't he faint after being beaten like this? Don't come over, if you do, I'll really beat you to death. The person with the bruise on his eye shouted. This was an extremely comical scene. The people who were beating the other person huddled together and shouted for the one who was beaten to not come over. On the contrary, the one who was beaten seemed to be in a daze. His whole body was covered in blood, and he was moving step by step towards the 5 people. Every step he took was heavy, and every step he took was shaky, as if he would fall at any moment, but he still continued to walk forward. If it weren't for the wall behind them, the 5 people would have retreated. To be continued. Chapter 72. A series of gulping sounds could be heard. Brother, what should we do? One of them nervously asked. He was afraid that if they continued to beat this Yang Kai to death. This is a fucking madman. The Qi transforming stage disciple's eyes slightly trembled as he cursed. I don't care. If he dares to come over, then we'll beat him. This time we must knock him out. But the other 4 awkwardly replied. Just as the 5 of them were on high alert, a chill suddenly rose from the bottom of their hearts, causing the temperature of the entire room to drop by a lot. Cracking sounds could be heard from all directions, causing the 5 of them to turn their heads in amazement. They saw that the walls and floor of the room were covered with a thin layer of frost. What's going on? One of them doubtfully asked as he shivered. Bang! The door to the secret room was kicked open by someone. Who is it? The Qi transforming stage law enforcement disciple shouted and turned his head to look. His mouth suddenly opened to the size of a duck's egg and he couldn't close it no matter how hard he tried. Although the temperature of the room had dropped to the point where it was as cold as winter, a thin layer of cold sweat suddenly appeared on this person's forehead. He stared blankly at the woman who appeared at the door and stammered, Su? Senior Sister Su Yen. Senior Sister Su Yen? The other 4 people's faces also changed greatly as they followed his gaze. Sure enough, they saw a beautiful woman with a cold expression and wearing a pure white dress standing there. She was like a pure white snow lotus blooming on a snowy mountain that had never melted since ancient times. She brought a chill with her as she descended to the world. She was so noble, so cold. Wherever her beautiful eyes swept past, the 5 of them felt a sense of inferiority. They all unconsciously lowered their heads. Su Yen had just hurriedly returned from Black Wind Trade, so she didn't have time to investigate the situation. She only thought that Sassafras had also been taken into the forest prison. After rushing in, she noticed that there were traces of a battle and immediately came to investigate. After opening the door, what she saw made her heart tremble. There were 6 people in the room. 5 of them were law enforcement disciples. One was at the second stage of the Qi transforming stage, while the other 4 were at the initial element boundary. The last one was covered in blood and his clothes were tattered. He stood there unsteadily, but his eyes were filled with an unyielding will. I've seen this person before. Xianxia. Once, Sassafras had brought him to Black Wind Trade. He was the disciple who had defeated Xianxia. Using her divine sense to investigate, Su Yan was even more surprised. She could clearly sense that this Xianxia was covered in wounds. Although these wounds weren't life-threatening, with his strength, it was absolutely impossible for him to still be standing. He should have been lying on the ground by now. Just how tenacious was his will to be able to withstand such a heavy blow without collapsing? In just a few moments, Su Yan already knew everything that had happened in this room. For the first time, a nameless fire rose in his heart, which was rarely stirred up. In a flash, Su Yan arrived at Xianxia's side. Supporting him with one hand, she poured her ice-cold yuan qi into his body and controlled his internal and external injuries. Strangely enough, after being stimulated by this ice-cold feeling, Xianxia's tumbling blood quickly calmed down. His drowsy mind also immediately cleared up. A clear fragrance lingered at the tip of his nose. Xianxia turned his head to look at Su Yan, who was standing beside him. His ferocious face gradually calmed down. This senior sister wasn't very tall. She was half a head shorter than him, but at this moment, Xianxia felt a kind of tranquility that he had never felt before. It was as if he was in an empty snowy mountain. There was only a refreshing coolness, and all the noise in the world had disappeared. With her by his side, Xianxia couldn't help but feel an urge to join hands with her and live in seclusion in the mountains. Who did it? Su Yan's indifferent and cold voice sounded. The 5 people from the disciplinary hall trembled. They looked at each other, then lowered their heads and said, "Everyone did it." In front of Su Yan, it was as if even lying was blasphemy. Her noble and inviolable temperament and majesty made them not dare to lie. Su Yan nodded slightly. "Very good." After saying this, she supported Xianxia and turned around, leaving the secret room step by step. Only after Su Yan's figure disappeared did the 5 people let out a heavy sigh of relief, feeling as if they had just survived a disaster. But before the 5 people could rejoice, they suddenly felt a chill on their chests. Looking down, they saw that there was a little bit of frost on their chests. Then, this frost quickly expanded, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into an ice flower half the size of a palm. With a wah sound, the 5 ice flowers shattered at the same time. The 5 people groaned and knelt on the ground with pale faces. They only felt that their yuan qi had disappeared along with the explosion of the ice flowers. Moreover, their bodies had also suffered heavy injuries. So strong, worthy of being the number 1 person of the 3 sects. The Qi transforming stage disciplinary hall disciple's face was pale. He was shivering from the cold, and his face was filled with lingering fear. He didn't see when Su Yan had made her move, but he had unknowingly been hit by her attack. If it wasn't for this senior sister's calm temperament, today's situation wouldn't have been as simple as just a few injuries. With her strength, if she wanted to take their lives, it would be as easy as pinching a conch with her 10 fingers. Outside the secret room, Xianxia was still staggering forward. Hearing the movement behind him, he turned his head and looked at Su Yan in astonishment. "You made a move on them?" Su Yan blinked her long eyelashes. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Xianxia nodded. "Oh right, bring Li Yuntian and the others out too." "What about Sassafras?" Su Yan asked. "I don't know." Xianxia slowly shook his head. "He wasn't imprisoned. He should have been sent back. Those people wouldn't dare to touch Sassafras." Hearing this, Su Yan let out a sigh of relief. The 2 of them walked into the depths of the forest prison. Not long after, they arrived at the place where Li Yuntian and the others were imprisoned. Seeing Xianxia and Su Yan appear together, and being so intimate, they were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They even forgot to breathe. Heavens! If I could be so intimate with senior sister Su, I would be willing to be beaten to death. Li Yuntian and the others were so envious that they wanted to die. "Come out." Su Yen waved her hand and broke the lock on the cell door. Oh! The group of people unconsciously responded, and then walked out in a daze. More than 10 pairs of eyes kept looking at Yang Kai and Su Yen. No matter how calm Su Yan's temperament was, being stared at like this, her expression became unnatural. Come, I'll take you out. Su Yan's pretty face was cold as she supported Yang Kai and walked in front. Li Yuntian and the others followed behind. Not long after, the group of people walked out of the forest prison. The bright light shone in, causing everyone to squint their eyes. However, outside the forest prison, nearly 100 disciplinary hall disciples were waiting in formation, surrounding the exit. What a big lineup! Yang Kai sneered, "Senior sister, I'm afraid this is used to deal with you, right?" Su Yen didn't answer. She just faintly glanced at the crowd and continued to support Yang Kai as they walked forward. Wherever they passed, no one dared to block them. All the disciplinary hall disciples who blocked the way scattered in fear and took the initiative to open a path. Chapter 73. Pairs of eyes stared at Su Yen and Yang Kai, who she was supporting. All kinds of envy and jealousy quickly spread, and a strong sour smell rose up. Before today, they had never seen Su Yen so close to a man. Even the several outstanding core disciples had never received such an honor. Su Yen cultivated the ice heart's secret art, and her heart had been sealed in ice for many years. Not to mention seeing her close to other men, it was rare for her to even speak. Every High Heaven Pavilion disciple, regardless of their strength, status, could only be cautious in front of her, lest they offend her. But at this moment, she actually took the initiative to support a young man at the initial element boundary third stage, her jade-like small hand slightly supporting his waist, her icy face slightly blushing, looking very attractive. The person who was usually unreachable, at this moment seemed to be much closer to them. However, the hearts of countless High Heaven Pavilion male disciples were broken. They felt as if the high and mighty goddess in their hearts had been desecrated. And this person who had profaned their goddess was right in front of them, being supported by their goddess, smelling their goddess's fragrance, feeling the softness of their goddess's small hand, and enjoying a treatment that no one else could enjoy. Murderous Qi. Yang Kai's mouth curved into a strange smile, his expression calm as he followed Su Yen forward, giving off the feeling of a fox exploiting a tiger's might. In front of them, a figure flashed. A handsome young man stood in front of Su Yen and Kai Yang. This person looked at Su Yen with a pair of eyes that were filled with tenderness and sweetness, but also concealed a trace of deep jealousy and unhappiness. Su Yan's footsteps paused, and she looked up at the other party. "Get out of the way." As always, a cold voice sounded. Her voice was flat, without the slightest trace of anger, and no one could hear her emotions. The man smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Junior sister, don't make things difficult for brother. Brother is also doing his duty." This person was the second strongest of High Heaven Pavilion's younger generation, Xianxia. "Get out of the way." Su Yen still said the same words, as if she was unwilling to say another word. Xianxia helplessly said, "Junior sister, these people can't leave yet. They have violated the sect's rules. Before the Elder Council makes a decision, no one can take them out of here." "Sect rules?" Yang Kai took a step forward and sneered, "Brother, may I ask, which rule have we violated?" Xianxia looked at him contemptuously and snorted, "Gang fighting, murder, contempt for the law enforcement hall, any one of these is enough to get you expelled from High Heaven Pavilion." "Gang fight?" Su Yen continued, "Who are you fighting with? Since it was a gang fight, there should be opponents, right? Why did the law enforcement hall only arrest one of them? What about the other side?" Xianxia's face stiffened as he was rendered speechless. The other side of the fight was Wei Zhuan and the others, so how could they dare to catch them? Murder? Then where are the bodies of the people who were killed? Xianxia smiled bitterly and hurriedly explained, attempted to commit murder, but fortunately our law enforcement hall stopped them, so there was no big trouble. When sect disciples spar, they are responsible for their own lives. According to what you said, Every pair of disciples who spar with each other are attempting to commit murder? Your law enforcement hall has so many people. If you have nothing better to do, why don't you arrest all of High Heaven Pavilion's disciples? Su Yan's expression was indifferent, her tone cold. As for the contempt for the law enforcement hall, if your law enforcement hall is really fair, who would dare to despise it? I'm afraid that the law enforcement hall, which purports to represent the sect's rules, has long been reduced to a tool in the hands of some people in a power struggle. If you destroy your own dignity, you can't blame others for stepping on you. Junior sister. Xie Hongchen's smile was dry, his handsome face showing deep helplessness. Do you have to be so blunt? Right and wrong, you know clearly in your heart. Xie Hongchen's expression was sad as he whispered, Junior sister, I have treated you with sincerity. Why do you make things so difficult for me? Su Yan lightly said, if brother's words were heard by junior sister Zhao Fei Shui, I wonder what she would think? Zhao Fei Shui, like Xie Hongchen and Su Yan, was a core disciple of High Heaven Pavilion. However, the relationship between this woman and Xie Hongchen had always been unclear. Xie Hongchen's body trembled as he stared deeply at Su Yan, his face filled with pain and helplessness. Immediately his eyes turned and stared at Yang Kai, his eyes suddenly filled with resentment. Yang Kai's expression was calm as he stared back at him without fear. You're called Yang Kai? Xie Hongchen suppressed the bitterness in his heart and asked. Anyone who saw the woman they liked so intimately supporting another man would not feel good. What advice does brother have for me? I know this time's matter was caused by you. If it weren't for you, there wouldn't be this trouble. If you don't want to implicate junior sister Su, you should obediently return to your cell and save me the trouble of taking action. Xie Hongchen faintly said. He had no way to persuade Su Yan, nor did he dare to touch her, so he could only find an opening from Yang Kai. Yang Kai smiled. What are you smiling about? Xie Hongchen frowned and asked. Yang Kai was now covered in blood and looked quite embarrassed, but he was still smiling. While smiling, he slowly reached out and grabbed Su Yan's jade hand which was resting on his waist, gently patting it. Turning his head to look at Su Yan, he said sweetly, I also don't want to implicate senior sister, but senior sister has always treated me with sincerity. I really can't let her down, so I can only let her do as she pleases. Xie Hongchen's face suddenly paled while Su Yan stood in place, her pretty face filled with confusion. Li Yuntian and the others' jaws dropped to the ground as strange gurgling sounds came from their throats, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't say a single word. The surrounding 100 or so disciplinary hall disciples felt as if their hearts had suddenly split open, each one dumbstruck. Senior sister, what do you say? Yang Kai seemed to be unaware of the critical situation and sprinkled a handful of salt into the boiling oil. Xie Hongchen nervously looked at Su Yan, afraid that she would give him an answer he didn't want to hear. Su Yan suddenly regained her senses. In all her life, she had never been so frivolous by a man. Her hand was actually held in his palm and caressed as he pleased. That rough hand rubbed against her skin, causing a burst of tingling pain and a bit of warmth. Su Yan was furious. She almost sent Yang Kai flying on the spot, but after thinking about it, she understood what Yang Kai wanted to do. Suppressing the anger in her heart, Su Yan nodded slightly and generously admitted, yes. While answering, she sent a stream of dark qi into Yang Kai's meridians. Yang Kai groaned as 2 streams of blood suddenly flowed out from his nostrils. Why are you bleeding? Su Yan asked as she took out a white handkerchief and gently wiped Yang Kai's blood. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Kai Yang felt a chill in his heart, thinking that although this senior sister's temperament was calm and indifferent, in reality, if you crossed her bottom line, she would not hesitate to act ruthlessly. Xie Hongchen was about to go crazy from jealousy. If Su Yan had just admitted it, he wouldn't have believed it, but seeing the scene in front of him made it impossible for him to doubt Su Yan's feelings. When had he ever seen Su Yan treat a man so gently? When had he ever seen Su Yan's hand being held in the palm of a man's hand without any resistance? If she wasn't really willing with Su Yan's strength, how could this Yang Kai have succeeded? Junior sister, you are a genius. How could you fancy such a waste? Who are you calling a waste? Yang Kai and Su Yan turned their heads at the same time, their faces cloudy like the night before a storm. Chapter 74. As if they had discussed this beforehand, as if their hearts were connected, Yang Kai and Su Yan unexpectedly shouted out the same sentence. Even their tone and demeanor were the same. Xianxia was startled by the roar. Looking at Su Yan in pain, he bitterly said, "How is he not a waste? In terms of status, he is just a trial disciple. In terms of cultivation strength, he is only at the initial element boundary 3rd stage. This kind of person is a waste. Junior sister, why would you like him? You don't need to worry about us." Su Yan was obviously in character. She also wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of Xianxia's entanglement for so many years. She even used such intimate words. "Brother, do you know the saying, love at first sight?" Yang Kai looked at Xianxia playfully. "You shut up." Xianxia's expression was ferocious as he roared, "I am talking to junior sister, how can a waste like you interrupt?" Yang Kai's eyes narrowed as he sneered. "A waste will always be a waste." Xianxia's calm and confident demeanor had long been thrown to the back of his mind. Under the influence of jealousy and hatred, his handsome face became twisted and ugly. "When I was your age, I was already at the Qi transforming stage. You are only at the initial element 3rd stage, while I am currently at the peak of the separation and reunion boundary. There is a difference of 2 large realms and 6 small realms. How can you compare to me?" "Brother, please wait and see." Yang Kai didn't say much. Some things couldn't be said. Only by doing it would it have an effect. "Xianxia, I don't want to be entangled with you here. Get out of the way. Thanks to your disciplinary hall, he is seriously injured. I want to treat him." Su Yan coldly shouted. "Today, no one will leave here." Xianxia roared. Looking at Su Yan with pain, his body slightly trembling, he ordered, "Disciplinary hall disciples, listen to my order. If anyone dares to rush out, kill them all. Even if it is your senior sister Su, you must not show mercy." Deep love, deep hatred. At this moment, Xianxia perfectly interpreted the meaning of this sentence. Hua hua hua. The 100 or so law enforcement hall disciples hesitated for a moment before immediately moving, once again surrounding Su Yan's group. "You insist?" Su Yan's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. Xianxia smiled bitterly. "Junior sister, I know I'm not your opponent, but if you want to pass, you'll have to step over brother's dead body." He was willing to sacrifice himself for a righteous cause, attempting to use his courage and selflessness to move Su Yan. Su Yan was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She wasn't afraid of the law enforcement hall. Her strength was as high as Yuan Qi level 3, which was 3 levels higher than Xianxia's. Once she used the ice heart technique, no one here could stop her. Yang Kai and Li Yuntian were destined to have a hard time as well. After all, she was only one person. It was impossible for her to protect everyone under her wings. The situation suddenly reached a deadlock. Su Yan didn't dare to lead her people to rush out, and the people from the law enforcement hall didn't take the initiative to attack, only blocking them here. While a group of juniors were making a ruckus here, the elders of High Heaven Pavilion were in another place, arguing with each other. In the Elder Hall, High Heaven Pavilion's Great Elder Wei Shitong, Second Elder Su Xianwu, Third Elder He Bei Shui, Fourth Elder Zhou Fei, and Fifth Elder Yu Zizai were all present. The 5 elders sat in 2 rows. On one side was Great Elder Wei Shitong, while 4th Elder Zhou Fei and 5th Elder Yu Zizai sat below. On the other side was 2nd Elder Su Xianwu and 3rd Elder He Bei Shui. This was the current elder faction of High Heaven Pavilion. Wei Zhuan and Sassafras, who had a conflict before, were kneeling side by side on the floor, reporting the events that had happened today. Sassafras spoke first. Every word he said was true. How he was blocked by Wei Zhuan, how he was provoked, how he was humiliated in the battle, no matter how big or small, he didn't have the slightest bit of emotion as he spoke. After the 5 elders finished listening, they didn't say anything. They only waited for Wei Zhuan to repeat himself. But when it came from Wei Zhuan's mouth, it was a bit different. At the beginning, it was no different from what Sassafras said, but after Yang Kai appeared, Wei Zhuan did his best to slander Yang Kai. His tongue flowed like a lotus flower, and with snot and tears, he said that Yang Kai had gone too far. He even used a secret artifact to break through his embroidered cloud chainmail and tried to kill him on the spot. The bitterness in his tone made those who heard feel sad and those who listened cry. Coupled with his exaggerated body language, the scene at that time was magnified 100 times in front of everyone's eyes. Bullshit. Sassafras was furious and couldn't help but curse. It's the truth. Wei Zhuan took advantage of the fact that Sassafras had been knocked unconscious and didn't see the situation at that time, so he insisted. Truth my ass. You're just a piece of trash who makes trouble out of nothing. You don't even have a draft for lying. All of you shut up. The first elder slammed the chair heavily. Sassafras scolded his daughter-in-law in front of him. How could the first elder not be angry? But although he was angry, it wasn't good for him to teach the younger generation a lesson. The second elder coldly snorted. The first elder said, "The matter has been asked. What do you all think?" Although he asked this, his eyes were fixed on the second elder, Su Xianwu. Naturally, he wanted to ask for his opinion. Su Xianwu said, "What do you mean by what we think? Isn't this matter obvious? Why don't we just let the younger generation deal with the sparring between themselves? Why bother the council of elders?" The first elder smiled. The fourth elder, Zhou Fei, who had always followed the first elder's lead, said, "Second brother, what you said is wrong. At the beginning, this matter was indeed a competition between the younger generation. But after Yang Kai started the matter, the nature of the matter changed." How did it change? Under the eyes of everyone, he openly challenged Wei Zhuan. He didn't break the sect's rules. Wei Zhuan's own strength was not good enough and he was defeated. Who can he blame? Su Xianwu was angry that his grandson was being humiliated. His tone was naturally not polite. The fourth elder said, if he really only challenged Wei Zhuan and defeated him, it would be understandable. But the truth is that during the battle, he took out a weapon and used it to break Wei Zhuan's embroidered cloud chainmail. The sect's rules say that when disciples fight, they cannot use weapons. That Yang Kai clearly broke this rule and should be punished. Su Xianwu coldly laughed. Fourth elder, the sect's rules aren't set like this, right? The sect leader hasn't come out for many years. Could it be that someone is so daring as to change the sect's rules? These words had a hidden meaning. The first elder's faction couldn't help but be moved. Wei Shitong said, "Oh? Then second junior brother, tell us, what are the sect's rules?" Su Xianwu coldly laughed. The sect's rules say that when disciples fight, they can't use weapons. They also can't use pills or secret treasures to strengthen themselves. Both sides can only use their own martial arts and their own fists and feet. First brother, this rule, I didn't say anything wrong, right? The first elder's face was cold as he nodded. You didn't say anything wrong. Chapter 75. That's right. Su Xianwu sneered. Why was Wei Zhuan wearing a defensive artifact when he was sparring with Sassafras? Isn't this breaking the rules of the sect? How should we deal with this? He didn't say how to deal with Yang Kai, but first tied Wei Zhuan together. This made the first elder's expression blank, not knowing how to answer. If Wei Zhuan really used his own ability to beat Sassafras, then Sassafras can only blame himself for not being skilled enough. Now that Wei Zhuan is using a defensive artifact to humiliate my grandson, brother, do you think I'm made of mud? Su Xianwu shouted angrily and slapped the armrest of his chair into pieces. Wei Shitong had no choice but to lower his stance and say, second junior brother, please calm down. Wei Zhuan's defensive artifact was indeed bestowed upon him by me. But I only wanted to give him a bit of protection. Who would have thought that this child would be so bad and use a defensive artifact to spar with others? This is Wei Zhuan's fault. After saying this, he shouted angrily, Wei Zhuan, why haven't you apologized to your junior brother yet? Wei Zhuan was obedient and immediately cupped his fists towards Sassafras. Junior brother, this time it was Brother Wei's fault. Brother will apologize to you. Junior brother, please be magnanimous. I hope you won't mind. Sassafras turned his head away and ignored him. But what could Su Xuanwu do now that things had come to this? The first elder said again, Wei Zhuan is wrong, but Yang Kai's mistake is even worse. Using a divine weapon, he almost killed Wei Zhuan. If it weren't for the intervention of the disciplinary hall disciples, Wei Zhuan would have already lost his life. This matter has a bad influence and Yang Kai must be severely punished as a warning to others. Fourth elder Zhou Fei and fifth elder Yu Zizai nodded in agreement. Second elder sneered, why is it that Wei Zhuan broke the sect's rules and should apologize, but Yang Kai should be severely punished? Could it be that because Wei Zhuan is brother's grandson, he can enjoy some special privileges? If that's the case, then what prestige does Sky Tower elders have in front of the disciples? Wei Shitong said seriously, second junior brother's words are wrong. Kai Yang's mistakes and Wei Zhuan's mistakes could not be compared. Wei Zhuan only wore a defensive artifact to protect himself, not to harm others. On the other hand, Kai Yang's artifact was used to kill people. Which one is more important? Second junior brother should be able to clearly distinguish. Su Xianwu asked, brother, who saw Yang Kai 8? Xianwu. Brother, if he really had such a weapon, why didn't the law enforcement hall find it on him? Fourth brother, did the law enforcement hall under your command report on this? The disciplinary hall was under the jurisdiction of the fourth elder, Zhou Fei. Hearing this, he shook his head and said, although he didn't, there were so many people present at that time. They all saw with their own eyes that Kai Yang had a blood-red knife in his hand. If it wasn't for the power of that weapon, Wei Zhuan's embroidered cloud chainmail would not have been destroyed. Su Xianwu snorted. The yuan qi in his body revolved, and a long thin sword suddenly burst out from his fingertips. This long sword was formed by the yuan qi. It flickered. Obviously, it was very powerful. If that's the case, does that mean I'm also holding a weapon? Su Xianwu looked coldly at the three people in front of him. This is only the use of yuan qi. How can it be considered a weapon? Fifth elder Yu Zizai slowly shook his head. Second brother, are you saying that Yang Kai, who is only at initial element level 3, can use yuan qi to such an extent? Fourth elder Zhou Fei looked at Su Xianwu with a smile. This was a joke. A cultivator could only use yuan qi when his strength reached the level of yuan qi. Only when the yuan qi in his body transformed into yuan qi could he condense such a substance. As for Kai Yang, he was just a trivial initial element third stage cultivator. The gap between him and the true element boundary was like heaven and earth. How could he have such ability? I didn't say that he could control yuan qi to such an extent. But brothers, did you forget about martial arts? Su Xianwu snorted. Impossible. Even if he used some special martial arts, a mere initial element level 3 cultivator would never be able to break through the defense of the embroidered cloud chainmail. Wei Shitong shook his head repeatedly. There is nothing impossible in this world. I can only say that brothers have been in Sky Tower for a long time and are obsessed with fighting for power. Your thinking is too rigid and can't keep up with the times. These words were a bit unpleasant to hear. Wei Shitong's face suddenly turned cold. Second junior brother, do you have to protect that Yang Kai? So what if I do? Su Xianwu suddenly stood up. This matter, to put it simply, is a competition between the younger generation. Why do you have to make a fuss about it? Fine, I'll satisfy your unreasonable demands. You can either punish both Yang Kai and Wei Zhuan. They both broke the rules of the Sky Tower. Don't let either one of them go. Or this matter is over. No! Wei Shitong flatly refused. Even if it is, as you said, that Yang Kai used martial arts to break through the defense of the embroidered cloud chainmail, this person is still young and his methods are bloody and cruel. In the future, when his cultivation reaches a certain level, he will definitely fall into the evil path. Our Sky Tower cannot tolerate such a person. He is only at the initial element level. How do you know that he will fall into the evil path in the future? Big brother, do you have the ability to predict the future? Second brother. Fourth elder Zhou Fei was about to speak, but was interrupted by Su Xianwu's angry shout. Su Xianwu pointed at his nose and scolded, "Fourth elder, before the head went into seclusion, he appointed you to be in charge of the law enforcement hall. In these past few years, have you seen what the law enforcement hall has done? Where is fairness and justice? If the law enforcement hall only suppresses dissidents and helps people fight for power, then what is the use of keeping it? Tomorrow, I will report to the head and have him remove the law enforcement hall." Fuck, what is this? The fourth elder was scolded, but he couldn't refute, so his heart was filled with grievances. Second junior brother, what if I insist on expelling Yang Kai from Sky Tower? Wei Shitong asked coldly. You dare? Su Xianwu did not back down. Good, then we will follow the rules set by the head and vote by a show of hands. Once the Elder Council passes, I think second junior brother won't have any objections, right? Ha, a show of hands? Su Xianwu laughed. Big brother, do you think I, Su Xianwu, am a fool? A show of hands, is there even a need to vote? This won't do, that won't do, what do you want? Do you not even put the rules set by the head in your eyes? Wei Shitong also became angry. The elder hall was filled with smoke, and it looked like a fight was about to break out. Calm down, come drink a cup of water, everyone calm down. The third elder, who had not spoken until now, tried to persuade them. The third elder had a calm temperament, and although he stood on the second elder's side, he generally did not participate in any fights. Moreover, his name was the same as his catchphrase, He Chue Shui, drink a cup of water. Whenever there was any friction between the elders, he would try to persuade them, but the results were very little. We won't drink. The great elder and second elder roared at the same time, glaring at each other, neither willing to accept the other. The third elder was helpless and could only drink by himself. While the elders were arguing, a person's voice suddenly came from outside the door. This disciple has something important to report to the several elders. The fourth elder frowned and quickly said, Come in. When the elder council was discussing something, ordinary disciples did not dare to disturb them. For someone to come in at this time, it meant that something big had happened in the sect. The several elders knew the situation, so naturally they stopped arguing. After the disciple came in, the fourth elder Zhou Fei asked, What happened? Reporting to the elders, someone broke into the law enforcement hall's forest prison and rescued the troublemakers Yang Kai and Li Yuntian. At the moment, they are confronting brother Xie Hongchen at the entrance of the prison. What? The fourth elder stood up on the spot, and the other elders were even more shocked. Who is so bold, daring to break into the forest prison to rescue people? The High Heaven Pavilion disciple did not dare answer, only raising his eyes to look at Su Xianwu. Su Xianwu's heart skipped a beat, faintly having a bad premonition. The great elder took in all of this and more or less had a guess, so he calmly ordered, Speak. It's Su Yen's senior sister Su. As soon as these words came out, the smile on the great elder's face suddenly became meaningful, and even the fourth and fifth elders gave Su Xianwu a strange look, while the third elder continued to drink his water. Su Xianwu's expression changed, gnashing his teeth in anger as he shouted, Did you see clearly? Was the person who broke into the forest prison really Su Yen? The disciplinary hall disciple trembled in fear and quickly said, Disciple saw it clearly. I have heard of senior sister Su Yan's name. If second elder does not believe me, you can go and see for yourself. No need. Su Xianwu waved his hand and closed his eyes. A moment later, he really did feel a cold chill coming from the forest prison, a chill that no one else in High Heaven Pavilion could feel except for Su Yen. This little girl really doesn't know what's important, she's too bold. Second junior brother, what do you think of this matter? The great elder smiled as he sipped his tea, waiting for Su Xianwu to withdraw his divine sense before calmly asking this question. At this moment, the great elder was confident. If the two sides were unwilling to back down just now, then there was now a breakthrough. What kind of place was the forest prison? It was an important place where High Heaven Pavilion imprisoned disciples who had committed crimes. Whether Yang Kai was in the wrong or not, as long as he was imprisoned, he had to stay there before the matter was settled. But now, Su Yen had rushed in and pulled him out. She had shown a moment of bravery, but had violated High Heaven Pavilion's rules. This was a big mistake. If this matter was not handled properly, even Su Yen would be punished. Wei Shitong knew that Su Xianwu would definitely not let Su Yen be implicated, so he had to make a concession. Naturally, the one he had to let go was the disciple named Yang Kai. Speaking of which, none of the 5 elders knew who Kai Yang was. The main reason why they had made such a big fuss about him was because they wanted to seize control of the High Heaven Pavilion. But now, the great elder felt that he could win. After this matter spread out, the disciples below would naturally think that the great elder's faction could influence High Heaven Pavilion's decisions and movements, thus achieving their goal. Su Xianwu's face was livid as he struggled for a long time before angrily saying, "Whatever eldest brother wants to do, will do as he pleases." Su Yen had become a hindrance, so how could Su Xianwu continue to play with them? In order to protect Su Yen from being punished, Yang Kai could only sacrifice himself. Where there is life, there is hope. There will always be a chance to get back at him in the future. Old ghost. When Sassafras heard this, he immediately stared at Su Xianwu in disbelief. "What did you call me?" Su Xianwu was about to go crazy with anger towards this pair of siblings. "Grandfather, you can't do this." Sassafras quickly changed his words. "You have no right to speak in this matter." Su Xianwu glared at him fiercely. "Brother Yang saved my life. You can't just ignore him. If you don't, then you are ungrateful." "You shut up." Su Xianwu's face turned red. Although he was unwilling in his heart, he was now a fish on the chopping block. So what could he do? In order to prevent Sassafras from continuing, Su Xianwu sent out a finger, causing Sassafras to freeze like a statue, unable to speak or move, only able to watch and listen. "I'll deal with you when we get back." Su Xianwu snorted. "Ha!" The great elder smiled with satisfaction. Since second junior brother has no objections, then this matter is decided. Saying so, he looked at the disciples below and said, "Pass down the order. Trial disciple Yang Kai has repeatedly violated the sect's rules. His methods are bloody and cruel, so the disciplinary hall will arrest him and bring him back to the forest prison. After the elders have a discussion, we will deal with him. As for Su Yen, since she is young and ignorant, and this is her first offense, we will not pursue this matter. Junior brothers, what do you think?" How could the other elders have any objections? "Go!" The great elder waved his hand and a token flew out, landing in the disciple's hand. The elder's command, seeing the token, is the same as seeing the person. With this token, Su Yen did not dare to act rashly. "Yes." The disciplinary hall disciple received the order and quickly left. A moment later, a short scream suddenly came from the door, followed by the sound of a body falling to the ground. The elders' expressions changed, and just as they were about to get up to investigate, a voice came from outside. "Elders, you are quite awe-inspiring." The voice sounded, and a white-haired old man slowly walked in. In his hand was the disciplinary hall disciple who had just left, but now he had been knocked unconscious. Even the elder token had been snatched by this old man. The old man walked in front of the kneeling Wei Zhuan and Sassafras, and casually kicked Wei Zhuan to the side. "Go, go, go, don't block the way." Wei Zhuan flew out, screaming miserably. In the elder hall, the 5 elders' expressions were dignified. Wei Shitong narrowed his eyes at the newcomer. Treasurer Meng? The newcomer was the contribution hall's Meng Wuya. Speaking of this person, the 5 elders were all confused. More than 10 years ago, he suddenly came to High Heaven Pavilion. They did not know what relationship he had with the sect master, but he lived in the pavilion and took charge of the contribution hall. The elders had asked the sect master many times about this person, but every time the sect master did not give them any details, leaving them scratching their heads. However, the 5 elders knew that this person was an expert. Moreover, he was definitely not inferior to them. Fortunately, this person did not have any purpose and only spent his time in the contribution hall, so the elders did not pay any attention to him. But he did not expect that he would come to the elder hall uninvited today. Wei Shitong faintly felt that when facing this treasurer Meng, the pressure was even greater than when facing the sect master. Because of this, Wei Shitong did not dare to slight treasurer Meng. Wei Shitong smiled and said, "I don't know why treasurer Meng has come to my elder hall. What business do you have?" Meng Wuya did not answer and only smiled at Su Xianwu. Su Xianwu did not understand why he was being stared at. He thought to himself, "There are no flowers on my face, so why are you looking at me? Do you think your decision is correct?" Meng Wuya suddenly asked. "What?" Su Xianwu was surprised. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.